So I'm Farad Ali, Durham City Council member, as well as Senior Vice President at the North Carolina Institute of Minority Economic Development. I'm really excited about what's going on here because this Black Wall Street was a place where capital and access to capital was important to a community of need back in the 60s and 50s, 60s, and 70s, and even before that, back in the 1920s. And it shows that this appreciation through art is an indication of how this remembrance of what commerce was like, and to inspire more commerce on a street that was really not too long ago was desolate. Downtown was not as vibrant as today. So I'm praying that we could use this opportunity to celebrate our history as we look forward to our future. Today is a very important day as we look to this kind of revitalization of downtown Durham, and to have the Black Wall Street memory be preserved through art as well as through commerce is going to be important. So that's why this is really important, because the second generation, third generations will be able to understand how Black Wall Street impacted their lives, and to inspire them to be entrepreneurial and to grow in their lives.
1 year ago, when we unveiled the first of the markers that commemorate the historic Parrish Street. And I know that Parrish Street is not the Parrish Street that W. Du Bois and Booker T. Washington talked about in 1925. It really still isn't the Parrish Street that I recall when I moved here in 1968. I remember going to the Mutual Community Savings Bank where we got a loan for our first home. But we know changes have come about. The vibrancy that we saw in the 1900s and the 1960s were pretty much driven by the economy of Durham, and that was tobacco, textiles, and etc. And a lot of that's gone away, and when that went away, a lot of the economy, especially downtown, changed. We had some other things that impacted Hayti, the urban renewal, the East West Expressway. All those things contributed to the change that we experienced in this community, especially on Parrish Street. But what we attempted to do is hopefully to bring Parrish Street back, maybe not in the same tenor that we knew it before, but to make it more vibrant as a part of the economy that's changing in downtown Durham. As I know all of you witnessed, we've made quite a few changes with the public and private partnership of what's happening in downtown Durham. We certainly want Parrish Street to be a part of that. But we think it's important that somehow we commemorate the work of those that came before us. And these markers are an attempt to do that. We know there's a lot of stories that can be told, and it's not just going to be told by markers, but at least represents a start. It represents something that people will talk about as they come into downtown Durham. And these things could not have happened had it not been for persons that have worked very hard on this, the historic Parrish Street group, and certainly Congressman David Price, who we'll hear from later, whose efforts on his behalf allowed us to get funding to make this happen.
This is a great occasion, and it's good to be here with all of you. The mayor's right, of course. Parrish Street, over the history of Durham, in many ways mirrors the history of Durham, the changes that we've seen here. But Parrish Street's looking pretty good these days, and it's looking better because downtown Durham is looking better. And there is a revitalization underway, and this is not just a museum piece. There is commerce, there's business, there are nonprofits, there's legal work, there's all kinds of work going on in this vicinity in the here and now. But there is also, and there needs to be, this historical component, this historical link. And there's nothing that can bring that home, I think, to people, especially children who are curious and who are wanting to know about things they see. Nothing like these sculptures. I think that would be quite as evocative, I think, of the past, and provoke us in the present to remember that past, to live up to our legacy, and to create a new legacy for future generations. So it's an inspiration, and it's very, very speaks very, very well, I think, of the community of Durham and all of that a part in this. That history is. History is taken so seriously. History can be a burden. History can be an embarrassment. History also can be a lesson. And history can be an inspiration. And there's some of all of that in our history. But these memorials, and and the memories they will evoke will help us understand our past and help us chart a more positive course in the future. I know all of you are part of that, and I congratulate you.
This particular marker ties back to 1921. The Atlanta Constitution wrote an editorial where they said that there's more grace, grit, and greenbacks among Negroes in Durham and harmony between the races than in any city in America. And that's coming from a city that has quite a history and reputation on its own. This marker also ties into the community activities and business of the business folks that were working on Parrish Street. And C.C. Spaulding led an effort that founded the Durham Committee for the Negro Affairs in 1935, later come to be known as the Durham Committee on the Affairs of Black People. Negotiation was their original sort of approach to change in this community, but as the larger civil rights movement got moving, they began to support public protests and boycotts. And there was significant leadership and high-level participation by African Americans in the North Carolina legislature, Durham City Council, the Durham County Commissioners, the school board, and those are a testament to the words of John Merrick in 1898, that blacks should share in the government and exercise civic responsibility. Indeed. Let me just read one other quote from that the mayor referred to, 1912, W.E.B. Du Bois. He said, "Today there's a singular group in Durham where a black man may get up in the morning from a mattress made by black men, in a house which a black man built, out of lumber which a black man cut and planed. He may put on a suit which was bought at a colored haberdashery, and socks knitted in a colored mill. He may cook victuals from a colored grocery on a stove fashioned by black men. He may earn his living working for colored men, be sick in a colored hospital, buried in a colored, out of a colored church, in the Negro Insurance Society, North Carolina Mutual, and pay his widow enough to keep his children in a colored school." Today that sounds like an anachronism. It's a historical point that really makes the point that in this community there was significant black business and significantly an independent black community that was able to provide all of that for itself. Yet still what we have here on Parrish Street was an example of integration where you had those black businesses right next door to white businesses all across. And I'll read you what it says below. Through strategic leadership and funding, black entrepreneurs on Parrish Street were active participants in the founding of the Durham Business and Professional Chain, the Durham Committee on the Affairs of Black People, black newspapers in Durham, and the election of African Americans to the City Council, County Commission, and Durham School Board.